Sekiro Shadows Die Twice achieved phenomenal success when it was released, not only because of its technical quality and innovative gameplay, but also because it offered a challenging and rewarding experience. However, it is interesting to note how, despite this positive impact, the game has slowly faded from the spotlight in the gaming community over time. This gives a somewhat strange feeling that something has changed in how players see the title, and it is worth exploring that more personally. First, I think the brutal difficulty of Sekiro, which initially attracted players seeking an extreme challenge, eventually became a natural filter that pushed away a good portion of the casual base. The game is not for everyone, and even many fans of Souls-like games admit that the level of demand can be exhausting in the long run. It's as if, after the initial hype, many players turned their attention to games that offer more accessibility options, since Sekiro does not include easier modes. Another relevant point is that Sekiro is heavily focused on its unique posture and parry mechanic, leaving little room to experiment with different playstyles. This creates a somewhat linear learning curve and can make the game lose some replayability for most players. After overcoming the first challenge, the community tends to disperse toward other titles that offer more tactical freedom and variety, which is why it stops being discussed as much. I also perceive that the lack of substantial additional content, such as expansions or significant DLCs, made the game less of a recurring topic. Unlike other From Software titles like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, which keep receiving new material and updates that keep the community active, Sekiro basically closed its cycle with its original release. This contributes to the game not remaining constantly highlighted on forums, social media, and fan groups despite its quality. Furthermore, the community around Sekiro seems to have fragmented and even aged, and some reports point out that online discussions have become more toxic and repetitive, with more complaints and less of that genuine excitement from before. This happens in other gaming niches too, but in Sekiro's case, coupled with the absence of new content, interest seems to have simply withered in online spaces, reducing the frequency of debates and interactions. From my point of view, Sekiro has become a sort of cult classic that many deeply appreciate, but that doesn't necessarily generate the same constant buzz that games with frequent updates do. The very nature of the game, being an intense personal skill challenge, makes it more of a solitary experience and less prone to ongoing heated debates. So, even with all its quality and success, it left the center of community discussions, because it has reached maturity and stability as a complete work, without anything new to keep conversations alive. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice lost its spotlight, mainly because of its high difficulty limiting its audience, its fixed playstyle reducing replay incentives, the lack of extra content, the community's aging and fragmentation, and its status as a high-level cult masterpiece. That does not diminish the game's value. It just shows that it has reached a stage where its legacy is quieter but solid among its most dedicated fans. Sekiro is indeed a highly acclaimed game for its quality and innovation, but its extreme difficulty is a divisive element that can drive away casual players. Personally, I understand this very well, since the game requires not only quick reflexes but also patience and constant learning, which isn't easy for those who play more casually. The intensity of the challenge makes many players frustrated, limiting the audience beyond hardcore fans. The difficulty in Sekiro is not there just for the sake of being hard, but rather to deliver a unique combat experience built on posture mechanics, precise defense, and perfect timing. This system seems like a fair test of skill to me, but it's not for everyone. The game offers no easy modes or options to lower difficulty, which can push some players away within the first few hours. This creates a natural barrier for casual or impatient players. One thing I've personally noticed is that Sekiro's learning curve is quite steep. You can feel that the game demands you get into a rhythm of intense trial and error, and only after much persistence does the reward come. On the other hand, it gives a greater sense of achievement for those who manage to overcome its hardest battles. But that extra dose of difficulty makes the game inaccessible for many, thus limiting its reach. Beyond the mechanical challenge, the game lacks the classic RPG progression system, where you can allocate points to grow stronger over time. Everything depends instead on the player's skill in managing posture and movement with precision, rather than gradual power-ups. For those unaccustomed or unwilling to dedicate themselves fully, this can discourage continued play. Another important aspect is the absence of any easy or accessibility mode for those who'd prefer to experience Sekiro's world and story without being punished so severely by its difficulty. While this aligns with the studio's design philosophy, It also sparks debates about inclusion and respect for different player profiles, especially now that accessibility is a major focus in many modern games seeking to reach broader audiences. What's clear is that Sekiro was designed for players chasing a true challenge, almost athletic in nature, and its difficulty is an essential part of its identity. That makes it an incredible game for those who love skill and mastery, but at the same time, a title that can turn away casual players or those seeking a more relaxed experience, even while being praised and globally awarded for its quality. This duality is what makes Sekiro so distinctive within the gaming world. Despite its enormous success and recognition after winning Game of the Year in 2019, the game today lives in a time of lower visibility, which is quite normal in the natural attention cycle that most games go through. My personal view is that this quiet period around Sekiro is natural because most games experience a strong peak of discussion right after release, followed by a decline when new content stops appearing and the community disperses toward other titles. The fact that Sekiro consolidated its legacy early, with awards and critical acclaim, places it in a strong position within gaming history, but also means it already fulfilled its role in revolutionizing and influencing the genre. The absence of an announced sequel or major expansions keeps it out of the ongoing conversation in gaming media, contributing to its lower visibility today. Another factor that stands out is that, unlike franchises like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, which receive updates, expansions, or maintain momentum through continued releases from Software, Sekiro remains more static, prompting the community's attention to shift toward newer titles. This does not diminish its value. It simply shows the game's evolution toward a phase of stability and nostalgia. Still, Sekiro's universe is far from forgotten, especially with new developments such as the announced anime adaptation set for 2026, which should reignite conversations and bring its world to a broader audience. This movement shows that even without a direct sequel, Sekiro's legacy remains alive and expanding into other media formats, keeping its fan base engaged and hopeful. To me, this transition, from an intense discussion period to a quieter cultural presence, marks the game's maturity. Sekiro has become a respected cult classic that continues to influence even without fresh content, and its importance in gaming history keeps growing. Its current phase is even healthy in a way, as it allows the game to be appreciated on its own merits without the pressure of constant hype. The Sekiro community remains active today, even if it's much quieter than that around other From Software titles, particularly Elden Ring. That's because Sekiro maintains a dedicated fan base that continues to play, share tips, post challenges, and recount their experiences even years after release. Personally, I think this says a lot about the game's quality and lasting impact as it continues to captivate players beyond its original hype period. However, unlike Elden Ring, still a massive ongoing phenomenon, Sekiro no longer sits in the community spotlight simply due to its natural life cycle. After its peak, attention shifted toward new From Software releases that enjoy more active development and frequent updates. Comparing it with Elden Ring is inevitable since the latter introduced an open world, multiple playstyles, and more accessible mechanics that naturally generate broader discussion. The Sekiro community profile is different. It consists mostly of players seeking an extremely demanding gameplay challenge that creates a dedicated but smaller fandom, with discussions focused on technical combat details, boss strategies, and skill optimization, thus fewer conversations in volume compared to the energetic and broad ecosystem around Elden Ring. On the other hand, the upcoming anime adaptation scheduled for 2026 has reignited some discussions about the world and story of Sekiro, giving new breath to the community and possibly attracting new fans discovering it through another medium. This news is a strong sign that Sekiro still holds relevance for From Software and its audience. In my view, the community's relative calm is a natural reflection of time passing since its release, as many players have now placed Sekiro among their personal classics, something they revisit for nostalgia or challenge, not necessarily for constant novelty. This is a healthy sign for a game that has found enduring respect within gaming culture. Sekiro maintains its cult status to this day, always remembered for its challenging gameplay and unique combat design. In my opinion, the game stood out precisely because it offered an experience unlike anything we had seen before, with a posture and parry system that demands intense focus and perfect skill from the player, creating a powerful feeling of achievement for those who face its challenges. This singular test of skill cemented Sekiro's place as a cult classic, celebrated not only for its difficulty, but also for the depth of its combat. Besides gameplay, Its combat design is expertly crafted to be fluid, agile, and strict at once, blending stealth and real-time action in a seamless way. This makes the game unforgettable for those who enjoy technical challenges. This gameplay signature is what I like to call the title's trademark, and it's truly hard to find anything else with a similar impact. Sekiro's combat feels almost like an exercise in rhythm, patience, and rapid response. Another key point is that, unlike other From Software titles, Sekiro emphasizes direct action and player skill over traditional RPG mechanics, making its identity even more distinct and cult-oriented. It attracts a specific audience that values mastery and mechanical refinement rather than build diversity or open exploration. In my experience, the game demands a level of commitment that gives it a special aura. Because of this, even though it is less frequently discussed than Elden Ring, Sekiro remains deeply respected by the community and the gaming industry. The upcoming anime adaptation that aims to capture the game's beauty and intensity strengthens its status as a cult work with a story and identity that transcend gaming alone. This confirms my belief that Sekiro carries a legacy beyond video games. I also think its cult appeal is reinforced by the fact that Sekiro doesn't fit within mainstream trends. It resists simplifying its difficulty or compromising its essence for mass appeal, which creates a barrier but also builds strong loyalty among fans who appreciate its unique identity. This keeps it relevant among hardcore players and secures its place as a point of reference in game design. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice continues to stand as a cult icon for its demanding gameplay and innovative combat design, leaving a lasting mark on players and remaining influential in gaming culture. This combination of challenge, exclusive experience, and distinct personality defines Sekiro's place in gaming history even today. Something deeply felt in its community and the recognition it still receives.